Dear learners, today we are going to discuss the last unit of ProQual NVQ Level 6 Diploma in Occupational Health and Safety. Gentlemen, we have already discussed the 9 units of this Occupational Health and Safety Diploma, which is eligible for gradiosh membership. So here we are going to discuss the last unit of this diploma. So the name of the qualification, as I have discussed earlier, is ProQual Level 6 NVQ Diploma in Occupational Health and Safety. The last unit number is K/616/9541. This is the number which is given by the awarding body to this unit. So the name of the unit is Maintain Knowledge of Improvements to Influence Health and Safety Practice. So basically, this unit will focus on the knowledge of improvements, like what is coming new and how the individuals and the organization is maintaining that knowledge for the improvement to influence health and safety practice. Actually, it is discussing about the new things, the new updates, new knowledge, that how any individual or organization can improve to influence health and safety practice. As we are discussing these units, so now we are clear about the learning outcomes and the assessment criteria. Same like other units, this unit is also consist of learning outcomes and their assessment criteria. Here in this unit, we have 4 LO, means learning outcomes, and then in total 16 assessment criteria. But do remember, we are not discussing the last CPD section of any unit, which we will discuss in upcoming lecture. So here we have to discuss, or we will discuss, the 3 learning outcomes and their 15 assessment criteria. So the first one is here. The first one learning outcome is to be able to identify new developments in health and safety. Basically, this learning outcome is having focus on that how you can identify, being a health and safety practitioner or an organization working towards the health and safety management system, that how you are identifying the new developments in health and safety, because you all know very well that it is always a process of improvement everywhere. So considering that same is same happen in health and safety too. So according to this learning outcome, we have to discuss the identification of new developments in health and safety. So first of all, we have 1.1, the assessment criteria: evaluate sources of information and advice on the latest developments in health and safety. So do remember that whenever you are discussing about the about any requested criteria, or you have to discuss about any assessment criteria, should remember the information you are providing is from your organization. So actually you are discussing about your organization. So here it is 1.1, evaluate sources of information and advice on the latest developments in health and safety. So basically, in this assessment criteria, you have to explain, and with the help of any evidence, you have to endorse your explanation that how do you stay up to date with changes in health and safety. So you have to explain that what is the mechanism you have in your organization, that you are getting the updated knowledge or information. As this qualification is a British qualification, so the evidences I refer you will be international, will be international or mostly from UK. But what you have to do, you have to explain what you are doing in your organization, and the evidences you are providing should be coming from your organization or your country, somewhere like where you are working. So for evidence, what we can use, for example, if I'm managing health and safety and if I don't have any other standard, then first I will explain that how I stay up to date with changes in health and safety. I will explain that, and after that, the potential evidences can be IOSH membership, that you have seen that if you have taken IOSH membership, because most of you are just going to take membership after this qualification. But what happened, sometimes some people have got membership on tech IO stage or associate membership, so they are getting continuously, they are getting some emails from the membership department of IOSH that is confirming a lot of changes. So that can be used. IOSH magazine, HSE bulletins update. This HSE is not health and safety and environment. This HSE stands for Health and Safety Executive, which is the organization in UK for managing health and safety legally. So it is a government institution there in the UK. SHP magazine and legal updates coming from any authority or any regulatory authority, or you can say coming from any law. So you have to, you can give evidences like that. Then 1.2, evaluate the impact on the organization and developments in health and safety legislation, policies and practices. So here it is mostly focused on the legislation, policies and procedures, and it is just discussing any impact of change on the organization or developments in health and safety externally. So you have to explain that. So actually what is required from you in this assessment criteria is that how have previous changes in legislation, best practice, etc., impacted the organization. It means that you have to explain that the last changes in the legislation, in the policy, and in practices or procedures, how impacted your organization. You have to explain here. So basically, in evidences, what you can use, changes to operations, you have to show, give some evidence that last time we are performing such activities like in this way, in this manner, and now we are performing these activities in these manners. So you have to explain, you have to give the evidence of that. Then changes to policies, changes to the regulations, so you have to give evidence of that. 1.3, advocate the adoption in the organization of new developments in health and safety matters. Like it is asking from you that how, if there are some changes, some developments in the health and safety matters, so how you are working on the adoption of that changes, that improvement, that developments. So actually it is focusing on that, that in your organization, whenever such developments are there, how you are managing that developments, that they become they accepted by the all the persons, individual present in the organization. So you have to explain that how these changes to under how you will advocate that why you have to adopt these development. So you have to explain that what is the mechanism you have in your organization to just discuss or just manage these developments. So in this regard, you can perform training sessions, TBT, internal magazines, emails, etc. So the evidences you can use here can be training sessions, record, TBT records, internal magazines and articles, emails records, and meeting minutes. You can use here as evidences. So moving forward in 1.4, it is asking about contribute to professional technical groups to enhance the development of health and safety. So basically, it is asking about that how in your organization, what technical groups are you a part of inside or outside the workplace? Okay, you are part of inside or outside the workplace. How have you contributed to these, and what is your contribution in the enhancement of the development of health and safety? So where you have contributed, you have to explain with respect to your organization, where wherever or whenever you have got the opportunities to perform there, to contribute there, you have to explain there, explain here. So the evidences which can be used here: internal meeting minutes, steering groups, health and safety committee meetings can be, the record of these can be used as evidences. So then 1.5, maintain on continuous professional development. So how, where have you taken opportunities to maintain and develop your skills? You have to provide the evidences. First, you have to explain here with respect to your organization, and then you have to provide the evidences of your CPDs and certificates which can confirm that you have maintained and developed your skills. So you can use that as an evidences. Then in learning outcome 2, be able to influence colleagues on health and safety matters. For example, it's normally happens in the organizations that whenever you have changes in system, in procedures, in processes, there is a barrier, or you can say it is always a challenge to communicate that changes, and more importantly, to implement that changes. So in this learning outcome, it is asking about that you should be able to influence colleagues on health and safety matters. So it means that you should have a proper knowledge, you should have a proper understanding that how these health and safety, how these changes can positively influence to your organization, to your health and safety management system. In this regard, first of all, you have to influence your colleagues because they are involved in every operation or any implementation. So you have to take them on board. The first assessment criteria for this learning outcome is identify opportunities to participate in professional discussions and review on best practice in health and safety. So it is discussing about that in your organization, how you are identifying opportunities to participate in professional discussions and reviews on best practice in health and safety matters. Because it is not always possible to just discussing the new changes or matters. It can't create a good impact on your colleagues or on the workers. So the best thing is that you should identify the opportunities whenever you can speak, whenever you can discuss. So you have to identify that. So here you have to explain with respect to your organization that how you are identifying these opportunities. So actually here, what you have to explain that how do you participate and in professional discussions aimed at influencing the policies and practices of the organization and ultimately influence others to adopt new developments. So basically, the discussion opportunities here are to participate in professional discussions, and then the main purpose is that you convince other to adopt these new developments. So it can be done through health and safety committee meetings, steering groups, project work, health and safety performance reviews. These all can be used as an evidence. Number 2.2, contribute to groups and committee engage in developing health and safety practice. So here you have to explain that how you are contributing to groups and committees engage in developing health and safety practice. So here you have to discuss about yourself, that what is your contribution or what is the contribution a person, a people like you are engaging themselves in developing health and safety practices. You have to explain that here. So these are almost the evidences will remain same in this whole learning outcome. So again, for example, if you have engaged in developing health and safety practice, groups, meeting, committee meeting, then you will produce the evidences, health and safety committee meetings, steering groups, project works, health and safety performance reviews. 2.3 is asking about influence the policy and practices of professional organizations and groups on health and safety methods. Again, discussing about that how positively the health and safety practitioners like you are influencing the policies and practices of professional organization and groups on health and safety matters. So how you are positively influenced that. What is the purpose of this positive influence? The purpose is there that when you have a positive influence on policies, practices of professional organization and group on health and safety matters, it definitely uh, it definitely work on the developments of health and safety matters, and also it helps you to influence your colleagues, your workers, that they should adopt these new developments, because they are in the line of implementation. So their involvement with this understanding should be needed, or should be important. Then 2.4, critically analyze health and safety best practice with colleague through meetings, publications, conference, and other methods. So here it just confirming that the assessment criteria itself, that here the evidences will be meetings, publications, conferences, and other methods. But what you have to do, you have to critically analyze there, okay, with your colleagues, with through meetings, publications, just convincing them that how important these developments are, and how you are taking these developments important, and why you have to adopt these developments. So you have to critically analyze, and you have to explain to your colleagues. So basically here you have to explain the things about yourself, how you are doing in the organization, or how the people like you, the health and safety practitioners, are doing in the organization. Then 2.5, influence colleagues and others on health and safety matters. It is just like that, that what are the methods, or what are the techniques health and safety practitioners are using in your organization to influence colleagues and others on health and safety matters. Then we have 2.6, advocate to colleagues the adoption of industry best practices. So basically here it is discussing about that even you have influenced them, but the main challenge is that everyone should adopt that developments what are happening in the health and safety. So here it is asking that in your organization, when there are new developments with regard to health and safety, how you advocate to your colleagues to adopt that, to accept that, to implement that, to perform according to that developments. So you have to explain typically about your organization, that how they are managing these. Then now we have the third, the with respect to our discussion, the last learning outcome here, and it has 4 assessment criteria. So number 3 is now how to maintain knowledge of improvements in health and safety practice. Basically here in this assessment criteria, as it is going to check your understanding and your knowledge, and discussing on the knowledge, so there will be no potential evidence for that. You only have to explain with your understanding that what are your thoughts, what are your understanding with regard to these improvements in health and safety, are the developments in health and safety. So the main focus of this learning outcome is that now how to maintain knowledge of improvements in health and safety, that you should know that how you can maintain the knowledge of improvements in health and safety practice. In this regard, the first assessment criteria is 3.1, explain the nature and role of improvements in health and safety practice within the organization, and how they can impact on the business. So you have to explain here actually that here it is just checking your knowledge, your understanding. So you have to explain it according to your knowledge, what you have with regard to these improvements, these developments in health and safety practice. So in answer to this assessment criteria, what you have to explain? First, you have to explain why are improvements made in health and safety? That what is the reason why we are making improvements in health and safety? Then number two, where can we find out about these changes? So where that is critical, that we should know where we can find out about these changes, that these are happening or what's going on. How does this facilitate continual improvement? As you all know, that continual improvement is integral part of going well. So keeping in mind, so it is just asking from you that how you think that how does this facilitate continual improvement. So basically you have to explain here that how these developments and improvement health and safety can work for continual improvement or can assist to continual improvement. Then in the last, you have to explain here in this assessment criteria 3.1, how can this impact the organization? That improvements made in health and safety, why, where, and how these facilitate continuous improvement. Now you have to explain there how can this impact the organization, that how these improvements in health and safety and developments in health and safety can they impact the organization. So you have to explain here. Then in 3.2, evaluate print based and electronic sources of information and advice on health and safety matter. So this is a simple one, that what type of printed based and electronic sources you are using for advice on health and safety matters. So identify print based and electronic sources of information what you have in your organization. So here you have to explain according to your organization, whether it is not asking for evidence, but you still have to explain here according to your workplace, according to yourself. Sources of information, what are the positive of each, what are negative? First you have to explain that what are the sources you have in your organization, print based and electronic sources. First you have to explain with respect to your organization, and then you have to explain the positives and negatives of that sources you are using in your organization. Then in 3.3, explain principles of effective written and verbal communication, electronic means of communication. Here you have to here you have to write on the effective written and verbal communication and electronic means of communication. Basically, these are the main means of communication. So you have to write here what is your understanding about the principles of these communication methods or communication means. Then the last one, 3.4, explain external factors influencing improvements in health and safety practice. Professional, non-professional and technical groups, professional organization. You have seen that whenever you are working in organization, so in that organization there are normally and mostly things are internal, but as you are working in the organization and that organization is a part of some society, or you can say some country, some region, so definitely they have interactions externally. So these external factors can influence improvements in health and safety practices. So in this regard, you have to explain external factors, what your organization is facing actually to in influencing improvements in health and safety practice. So here professional, non-professional, technical groups and professional organization, you have to explain all. So with regard to what you have to explain, so normally the external factors are statutory legislation, industry best practice, client demands, insurance companies requirements, trade union requirements, HSE requirements. So basically, these are the external requirements which can influence improvements in health and safety practice. So you have to explain these, but considering your organization and then answer to this one. So gentlemen, we have completed all these 10 units. So in the next lecture, we will discuss the CPD part of this qualification, because that is a mandatory part to complete this qualification. And I hope that all these lectures, all this discussion will really help you to complete your qualification successfully. Thank you very much. We will meet in next lecture. Till then, goodbye.